Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Non-Expert Guide to African TV and Film. Before we go on, don't forget to subscribe. Yep, that's the notification bell down there. All right, let's jump right in.
From the first day you took your first breath, I have loved you. And nobody is going to take that away. So you like her?
I love her. I am getting married to the most incredible woman that I've ever actually met.
Have the nerve to come here and ask me for help after what you did!
I need you to go somewhere, okay, so I know you're safe.
Safe? From what?
First, I asked you to get rid of those bloody hibiscus. Now I'm asking you to do not raise your voice at me.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Non-Expert Guide to African TV and Film. So this weekend, we were supposed to be taking a break. We've been recording steadily for the past 8 weeks, and we're like, okay, let's do a little hiatus. And this film that we're going to discuss today brought us out of hiatus. Yeah, we came out of hiatus to discuss Sylvia.
1 week I couldn't even manage. Manage 1 week without doing this thing.
I know. All right, so I'm here with my two co-hosts, Tolu and Ibiyemi.
I am a communicator by trade and a movie aficionado. Is that a word?
Yes, you're allowed.
I'm allowed. I'm a movie watcher and a television watcher by night. Mostly K-dramas, mostly Korean film and cinema, but everything is under my purview, especially when it comes to African movie and TV. So let's go, peeps.
All right. And then we have Ibiyemi.
Hello, everyone. Ibiyemi here, banker by day and musical theatre enthusiast by night.
And I am Lola, and we all come on every week to talk about the films that we love from out of the continent, the TV series, the streaming shows, everything. You know, we talk about everything. And today we're here to talk about Sylvia, which has taken social media by storm. Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
So like I said, right, we were on hiatus and we're just like, we've got to discuss this film. So let's jump right into it. I'm gonna read a quick synopsis. So Sylvia, it was released in 2018, but just recently out on Netflix. When a man outgrows a childhood friendship and commits to marrying his girlfriend, obsession and spiritual warfare soon disrupt his peaceful life. Cue the music.
Dun, dun, dun.
It stars Chris Atto, Zainab Balogun, and Ini Dima Okogie. All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about plot. How did we feel about the storytelling in this film?
So I thought it was a really good plot in the sense that it wasn't immediately obvious where it was going. When you read the synopsis, you kind of think you know where it's going, but then immediately you're wondering on what plane this initial relationship was happening. So I think there was quite a bit of suspense in there, and they were able to hold my attention because of that. I was prepared not to like it, I'm not gonna lie. But then I kept getting drawn further and further into it when I couldn't really explain away the relationship. I think, and I don't know if this was what the writer or the director was going for, but I think it was a very interesting take on spirituality, on the concept of the African concept of spiritual relationships, but also schizophrenia, mental illness potentially, and the stigma that comes with, well, not necessarily the stigma, but just the almost a way to explain away some of the ethereal, that's that the word, some of the unexplainable occurrences in African or in our lives generally. When something weird happens, is it a spiritual thing or is it a mental thing? And I think that for me was a really good, and the writer didn't try to solve it. The writer didn't try to answer the question, but presented it to us. And I was like, there you go. Some of you turn around and say it's spiritual. Some of you be right to say it's also a mental illness. So I liked that about the plot. The storyline itself, and with all the difference, my wife this, my girlfriend that, spiritual girlfriend this, best friend this, all of that, I think was nicely wound around these themes of, like I said, spiritual world and mental illness. So I quite liked it.
All right, Tolu, you want to chime in?
So from the very first scene, I knew what his problem was. And so I knew where this was going. I mean, I didn't know exactly how it was going to end, but I knew where it was going. And the movie did not surprise me one. What? Not one surprising thing about this movie. Maybe because I've seen some of these movies before, these types of movies before, and I've been shocked then, so I'm not shocked by this now. But I just kind of saw where all of this was going. And so I wasn't surprised or shocked at the turn of it.
We're unfriending you, Tolu. We're unfriending you.
Completely. Right after this, you are dead to us.
I don't like. It was so obvious. It was so obvious from the very first scene.
Was it though?
So, yes.
I don't agree.
Okay, when we get into like wading into the story, but I didn't enjoy the actors. Chris Atto was acting. I could see his worried and furrowed brow every time he was thinking of looking concerned. Who is going to buy Chris Atto, that hunk of a man, as a nerdy, quiet ad man with? I'm just like, who do you think you're fooling? Those glasses are not fooling anyone. This man is not shy in his life. Has never been shy. Life will never be shy in his life. So why are you doing
stop projecting?
But it's true. It's true. It's true. and it's just, I could see Zainab acting. I mean, she did get better when she was going through the movie. As when she turned, you could see like she relished that part of the acting a little bit better. So she felt she lived better in that role than the sweetness that she started off with. And I don't know, again, the coloring in the movie, I don't know what they call it, but it was so washed out. The whole movie felt like it was this layer of film that just needed to be washed off so that the colors would pop and we could see more of what was going on. And I just, there was no, when they're in the dream world, everything's gray. I mean, at least it should be the color should be bright and punchy and really sort of sell you that they're in this, dream or something. But it was just very gray and tone. I'm just like, oh God, no, help me.
I don't know. Maybe that was it felt slightly unsettling to me. Because I just kept feeling this haze. When is it gonna go away? And it never did. But then I like how they played with color though. Like that scene where they meet Cynthia, / Sylvia, right? They all meet. It's all red. It's like danger. It's something dangerous. Mm-hmm. Here it comes, kind of thing. So I like that. But I get you. I did feel a little thrown off by the tone of the film, but maybe it was on purpose.
Deliberate. You're right, actually. That's a good point in that it's supposed to be it's not quite reality.
Mental haze.
Yeah. It's not quite reality. Mm-hmm. One thing I did not like was the literal lamp shading of the bouquet of why would you do that? A bouquet of flowers. What are they called? Not dahlias, but I forgot what they're called.
Hibiscus.
The hibiscus flowers. I'm just like, why? They literally put a spotlight. I mean, there's lamp shading in movies. It's a thing. And then you have to literally do it. But why? Why?
But they wanted us to
get it. No.
How would we see it if there was no light on it?
It's not necessary. We get it. You're already lamp shading it by mentioning it. You don't have to literally put a spotlight But then again, it could be a sign of his madness because he's seeing things, in a view that, and if the director is making all these choices, then kudos to him or her because, or him, because at least, and the writer is a her, so director is a him, producer is a him, writer is a her. So yeah, kudos to them for doing all of these things. But man, I guess you have to start somewhere.
I guess.
And I mean, some of the scenes just went on forever. The proposal scene where the best friend was proposing to when the best
Cynthia.
to Cynthia / Sylvia. I was just like, dude, again, what is going on? Let's get to the meat of the scene. It was so long, and I was just like, people, there's no tension here whatsoever. Something ridiculous is gonna happen. Blah blah blah. I was like, come on. And then by the time you got to the end where he's, I don't know, trying to have his Fight Club moment, I'm just like, people. All right, but anyways, that's my take on it, Lola.
Tolu, why are you so cynical?
That I'm the only
I don't
one.
even understand for the girl. Who hurt you, Tolu? Who hurt you?
I know this movie.
Why? Why?
It's not my fault. I don't know how to take it. I was not scared. I was not shocked. I was.
Your heart is strong.
Very strong. I will not watch a horror movie because I am so easily frightened. But this movie did not even move my, like, it was hard to...
is it possible that because I certainly had hyped it a little bit on our private little chat room. Is it because of that? Or maybe you already knew a little bit about it? Or what do you think?
I started watching it before you hyped it.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you had already figured it out because you'd watched a bit of it and then you started watching it again. Because I was kind of watching it with side eye, and then my attention to it was kind of like, if the attention was there, I was kind of like doing that, and then that's how maybe if I've been watching it head on like this.
What I think was so obvious from the beginning. So I'll let Lola go into what she felt and how she felt about the storyline. Okay. And I'll go into why I think it was a very obvious story from the get-go.
Oh my God.
Lola, what did you think about the plot?
So here's what I'm gonna say. When I took a screenwriting class, right, they teach you about the 3-act structure. And I feel like this screenwriter did it to a T. The first 30 minutes, they set it up, right? They tell us the background, and then there's the middle, right, where the tension kind of gets escalated, the conflict gets escalated, and then you have like a resolution at the end. They hit all those beats, right? So that I thought that made it an effective story, as opposed to film sometimes where you're just like, what am I watching here? Like, what's the conflict? Who's the villain? I'm not understanding. But I would say the setup for me dragged a bit. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't, Tolu, unlike you, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, there's this girl. And then I thought so first, I was like, is she dead? Like, what's going on? But then rewatching it, I see that they dropped all these clues. But for some reason, the first watching, I didn't get right. Yeah. So I can see people getting a little turned off by the setup, which is like literally 30 minutes into the film. Like the point where Zainab turns is like 30 minutes into the film, like right there. I can see people thinking, what am I watching? And so I feel like that part might have been a little slow. But at that 30-minute point, I'm just like, okay, it's on. And then from there on, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I want to see what happens, and I loved it. I loved the suspense. There's not very many films now, because I feel like as you grow older as well, you've seen a lot of things, right? And so you're thinking, okay, I know what's going to happen. But in this case, I truly didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm just like, and I said I was like, oh, this is that spiritual wife, spiritual husband thing.
Yeah.
Different take on it. And I was just excited. I loved it. I liked it. Tolu, don't know what you're talking about. I liked it.
Okay, for those people who don't want spoilers, spoiler alerts.
Plenty of spoilers.
From the very first scene, when that nurse walked up the stairs, I knew the man had a mental health issue. Because no a healthcare organization will allow a nurse to wear such an outfit.
Well, I was like, what's up with this buxom
And so
nurse?
like that was the opening scene, and to me that was just a huge sign of mental illness, that something was wrong with the movie. And so
wait, but what did that say to you? That was his imagination? The nurse was his imagination? Oh my God.
So I didn't get that.
I didn't get that. But
I thought it was just poor costume.
No, it has to be very deliberate, because I hope it was like very deliberate. But to me, it just seems there's no way, even with costuming, there's no way you would allow a nurse to be hanging out like that. And it does seem like a very male fantasy version of a nurse. So, I mean, nurturing and caring, her behavior throughout the whole, that opening scene, was really sort of walking around with this basket, which is very, you should expect some level of caring from a nurse, but it was too, like, fairy-like. So it just felt very not grounded in reality for a nurse that's supposed to be there. And then she sits down and has this lengthy conversation with the patient, and I was just like, this man has problems. Oh yeah, let's go. And so you jump into it and you see that he has issues with women, and it keeps going. And all the issues that present in his life are related, especially related to women in his life. And you can just see that, yeah, he has mental health illnesses presenting as troublesome women in his life. And, I think I actually like that train of thought. And I think that was a very clever way to go. I'm not particularly fond of using women as a device for pain and agony in a man's life, but I at least appreciate what that line of thought was. I mean, I'm not just talking about Sylvia. I'm talking about his troublesome sort of secretary who drove away a client. His wife even was a little bit like, she wasn't, so sometimes she wouldn't listen to him, and he would be like all sorts of aggression. There would be all sorts of aggression towards her. But it just felt like Sylvia was manifesting in the personality of Sylvia manifesting women in his life. And so I wasn't even surprised when she brought out that flower. It was like, yes, she's just representing herself in another woman. Or rather, she's just being represented in another woman in his life. So I wasn't shocked by the flower at the end. I wasn't like, it just made sense to me that would happen. So
it's so interesting.
So it might be a psychology background.
Yes.
Do you think it might be that because whilst I think as from a storytelling perspective, I think all those things are plausible. I'm not sure that they were particularly deliberate from the perspective of the writer. I don't know, and if they were deliberate, then I don't think they were delivered properly. It all worked in my mind.
I mean, that's pretty clever. If it was deliberate.
Yes, but then think about something like Sixth Sense, where you didn't understand, but at the end they showed you a cut together clip to prove that the main character, is it Bruce Willis or what's his name? Is it Tom Hanks? I can't remember. Bruce Willis's character. They showed you at the end how you can now go like, oh my goodness, he was dead. They should have made it a lot more obvious to say, oh my goodness, his mental illness encapsulated in the personality of Sylvia was manifesting in all these people. So the way you've explained it makes sense. But from my perspective, if that was the direction of the director, he didn't show it. Having said that, it didn't mean that those other characters didn't have some perspective that was related to his mental illness, but not as clear or not as articulated by what you just said there. So at the start, you'd know that he has a mental illness, but almost from, if you don't look at it properly, you think it was what happened to him, the reality of him having a spiritual relationship that then turned sour and then brought about this conflict and brought about this tragedy in his life was what drove him to mental illness, as opposed to the fact that actually having a spiritual wife was a mental illness, which was the thread right from the very beginning. So there's a subtle difference there, but it's not even subtle. There's a big difference there. Did this happen and then drive him to mental illness, or was it mental illness from the very start? And I don't think that question was if they were going for mental illness at all, you'd be surprised. Maybe the director is even going for, let's talk about spiritual wives, so that you people know that there's spiritual wives out there. If that's what he was going for, then all this intellectualizing that we're doing, the psychology that we're doing is over the top. We don't know whether that's what they were really going for. But if that's what they were going for, then they could have made that distinction clearer to say it drove him. Oh no, if not, it couldn't have driven him because it's mental illness. They should have made it clear from the start that it was mental illness from the start. So I think if they had a scene at the end, maybe after everything, to say, oh, I'm not going back, I'd rather die, where they did a cut together to show that every time he was speaking to Sylvia in the presence of other people, she was actually never there. And the people that were in that scene kind of explained the way the conversations that he was having with Sylvia in a very clever way, that actually, if you guys go back and look at it, you realize that nobody was actually looking at Sylvia because she was never there. Mind blown. That would have taken it to the next level for me. But they didn't do that. So we're not really sure if it was mental illness or if it was spiritual something.
So the other thing that, again, from my from sort of also watching a lot of crime dramas, was that with split personalities, there's another M. Night Shyamalan movie called Split, which I think this is more akin to. But with split personalities, some personalities are more aware of your real life than others. And so for instance, when he would go to her for homework issues, I just immediately thought that he has a split personality, and part of his split personality is resolving issues that he's experiencing in the real life. So like you could see when he broke it off, quote unquote, with Sylvia, he went through work issues because he had split from his problem solving arm, which was Sylvia. Sylvia was the one who like came up with the ideas for how to woo the client back. So to me, again, because I have watched some movies that have talked about a lot about split personality, and also because I have a psych background, I kind of just got all of that right away. So it made sense to me that, the movie made more sense to me as a person with serious mental health issues that went undiagnosed for a long time until he had a massive change in his life that sort of exacerbated and had the things snowballing out of control. So, yeah.
Wow. Woo.
I feel like we've ruined it for Lola. Lola is like, this was a nice film. I don't know what you were psychoanalyzing here. Lola, woo.
No, but this is very interesting. No, because I actually love Tolu's take on it, because I'm like, wow, I never saw it that way.
Don't agree with her.
I don't agree. No. I'm not agreeing, but I mean, I still like this movie. Let's make that let me make that very clear. I enjoy this movie. And even if what Tolu is saying is true, then I'm even more like, good job, director. I'm really more impressed, exactly.
Let me recommend that you guys watch Split. Split is actually a really good movie about split personalities and really delves into that sort of what goes on in the mind of somebody who is still dealing with multiple personalities.
Oh, sorry, there is one more thing. So when she explained, when she was, Sylvia's character was when Sylvia was talking to Bimi and Richard, and she was talking about, I think she started off using the hibiscus flower as reference, and she was saying there's the flower of the goddess of something, who is the goddess of one thing, and was it sexuality and wrath or something, or revenge or something like that.
Something about unreality, something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really liked that as well, because I think it brought it, and I don't think she referenced it as an African deity. I think it was
a Hindu deity.
It was I thought, oh my goodness, you didn't have to do that. Why don't you make it one of ours? Make it one of ours, so that it's bring it home. Let's own this ish. I thought that scene was actually quite nice, because it kind of explained, if you wanted to go down the route of it was a spiritual thing or otherworldly interaction. I thought that was quite a good scene. So I think there were some nuggets of good. The overall plot and the overall story I liked. I like the way the story weaved together. You're right. There was the introduction of the setting up, there was a conflict, and then the resolution. And the resolution was brilliant in the sense that it wasn't, and then a pastor came and cast out Sylvia, and then he managed to find something that would kill her. I liked that. I liked the fact that the resolution was, unfortunately, he lost lots of things. Maybe he was able to hold on to one bit of his sanity to say, I'm still never going back into this relationship. So I think there was a resolution. It wasn't probably the type of resolution that you would expect to see in a Nigerian Nollywood creation. They always come out tops where the hero would be the actor, actor never die. In this case, there was a resolution, but there wasn't that sort of victory that you would expect. So I thought, that again wasn't immediately obvious to me that's the way it was going to go.
Yeah, and just going off of that, talking about make it one of ours. How did you feel about the dialogue?
Oh God, don't get me started.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I was going to say, I don't know if it was the writing, but certainly if the writing was good, then the delivery wasn't great. The banter between the two guys, for example, it seemed they were getting somewhere with it, or maybe they needed to do a lot more workshops together so that they could be completely comfortable and it wouldn't be too stilted. I think we always use that word because it always seems slightly manufactured. Yeah, so that's certainly what I saw there. Even between the couple, whilst Bimi's face was genuine and her smile was there was something very,
it was very bubbly,
sickly sweet about it. And I know there's some personalities that are like that, but something like, it's okay, auntie, kind of dial it back a bit.
She's constantly dialed up to like 11, like, oh yeah,
I know.
like, it's all right.
Kamidun, we don't really need. So there's something about it that, so the acting, and I don't know whether it was a script or whether it was the delivery, but there was something very, and of course we know what we all love Zainab. Well, we know this. She always looks as if she's acting. She's acting her socks off, And until that switch was brilliant. My goodness, like that switch was. Hey, also he wants to be playing bad girl. Bad girl is what you. That's how I felt. But even when she was playing bad girl, I felt sometimes that she was doing it. It was a bit over the top. But yeah, so I'm not really sure about that. That didn't really give. I wouldn't give it full marks for that bit.
Tolu, do you want to say something about that?
So the dialogue to me was very, it got better. So funny enough, my favorite bits were interactions were actually when Bemi was interacting with Sylvia almost at the very end. I think they were going into the kitchen and Bemi was using pidgin. I was like, this is more natural. This makes sense. But throughout the whole movie, you have people so the guy who plays Richard's boss, Crisato's boss, he actually is, funnily enough, he was very Nigerian in his English, and I like that. So even though his voice was very movie trailer, stud guy, whatever, he actually was using let me talk to you for a minute. I like the language was Nigerian, and I actually think that it was more him and the script, and so I really enjoyed some of his delivery. Some of it was too much, but yeah, that guy was pretty good. But the rest of the movie, I just felt like, what kind of, again, Nigerians don't speak like this. Even gendered Nigerians have a way of speaking, and that's the issue, right? I feel sometimes a lot of script writers go for this idea of almost like 1950s Shakespearean English, kind of not, but it's very overly eloquent,
articulate and eloquent, yeah.
Too much, and that's not the natural cadence of how people speak. If it is, it's a certain kind of person, and the person, when you're listening to that person, the language doesn't stick around the use of language is not like that, and so it's very, you're not getting it right, and I don't know how to improve, because I know that script writing is impossible. To put words into somebody's mouth and to give the character, character, it's hard. So
yeah, I felt like I would say to the scriptwriter, I mean, if I, after watching this, right, like you're cooking this stew and you've put all these words in it, or all this language, all this dialogue. And I'll be like, yes, here's Nigeria. Take some seasoning out of the Nigerian bucket. Add more. Yeah, keep adding. And hey, you're there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You add your stock food, you add your panla, you add, the things that make it a Nigerian.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. So that I felt like it was stripped of that, and I don't know why. And even as a person who tries to be a screenwriter as well, I think it's the influence of watching all these Western content, right? You see it, it's smart, it's clever, it's quick, and so you want that to happen. So I get it, like boom, 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 boom. But we don't necessarily talk that way.
When they were talking about she's got a great face, she's got blah blah blah. I said she get body, she get this. I mean, we have pidgin. Pidgin is our go-to language for colloquialisms and slang and all of these things. I mean, it's just such a natural way for us to speak and to understand and to relate to each other on a very sort of basic level. And I always find it that we don't put enough, which is one of the reasons I enjoy Sugar Rush. Or I like what they did with Sugar Rush's script, because they integrated Yoruba, they integrated Pidgin into that script very, very naturally. And so it felt like natural dialogue a lot of the time. So
Living in Bondage did the same thing too. Living in Bondage did that as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you again for joining us on this episode of the Non-Expert Guide to African TV and Film. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, don't forget to like our page. To see the rest of our conversation on Sylvia, stay tuned for part 2 of this video.